And we are recording.
Okay, let's call this October 14th meeting to order of the Toxics Board. Let's go around real quickly and do introductions. Mark, you want to start?
Sure. Mark Kruger, industry advocate.
And I'm Andre Phelps. I will chair today. I'm normally the vice chair and the neutral position.
I'm Crystal Abrams, citizen advocate.
Don Egan, industry advocate.
And we also have on the line okay, thank you, Evan.
And James Lenhart, program manager.
Great, okay, so we have a quorum today, so let's go to approving the agenda. I actually wasn't here for this meeting, but does anyone have any comments or changes? Would anyone like to move to approve them?
I move that we approve the meeting agenda as it is written.
A second.
Great. So all in favor of approving the minutes as written?
Aye.
Any, Evan, have you been able to look? Okay, so that's for approval, unanimous approval. Hi. We've just started, Nicole, so do you want to just introduce yourself real quickly?
I'm Nicole Patterson. I'm a community and environmental advocate. Or which
Yeah.
one am I?
Yeah.
Same?
Advocacy. Yeah.
Advocacy.
So we just approved the minutes, but I'll just ask you, did you get a chance to look at them? Did you have
I
any
did.
changes, comments?
Looks great.
Okay, great. All right, well, then that is unanimous. Let's move on to public comment. There is no public comment today. And then moves us straight to the staff report.
Okay, it's a pretty quick one today. Business outreach is ongoing. We have 11 businesses currently in the onboarding process. I met with one this morning. I have 2 more tomorrow morning that will be coming on board with the program. The biggest hurdle we've seen so far is just like it has always been. People aren't quite aware of what's in the compounds that they're using. So even today, the general manager swore up and down that, well, we don't use anything. We even use, environmentally friendly chemicals. And as I looked in there, there's still compounds that are in it. So just going through an education process with him and the like. So we'll have 2 more this week, and I'm still waiting to hear back on a couple more to hopefully get in next week, and I think that'll bring us up to about 15, 16 so far this year. That'll be coming into the program.
Small, large?
Well, since they all come in, when they come in at about if they're between the 15, 17 FTE range, which is often that's where it hits. It's about, so normally it's well below 10 or getting to the 15, 17 or then quite a bit larger. Haven't seen a lot of the quite a bit larger. They've normally been around that 10 to 18 range, and that puts them about halfway to the max as far as fee wise.
Have you seen any of them that are going to have to report?
The main ones I've seen that are having to report are the cannabis extraction facilities, and I have about 20 more to reach out to that I just identified last week that I'll need to be chatting with. But they are the most common ones I've found, just because the amount of, especially I think it's propane, butane, and isopropyl alcohol they move through. They don't keep a lot on hand, but they move it through really quick.
And those usually have more than 10 employees? Or?
Quite a few of them do. There are quite a few that are really small, but there's been quite a few that have grown really rapidly.
And you said you just got a list of 20 of them?
20 more through LLCC.
Okay.
And that is what I have at the moment. I guess the only other thing is to follow up on something that was mentioned last time, Don. I'm working with ISD to find out what options there are to get better analytics from the reporting website. So we're working on that still.
Okay. So that's all for the staff report. So we're going to move on to the approval the September 9 meeting minutes?
The last meeting, there was a fail within the, I can't think of the word, the encoding of the video. I could make out the dialogue, but it was so distorted, it would not have been viable to put up on the site, so I had to type up minutes instead.
Did you send those to us?
Yes.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Does anyone have any comments on these minutes?
The ones from last time?
Yes.
Spelling error, I assume. But that's from the beginning.
Anybody else? No? No? So can we set it to a vote? Or can we, is anyone who would like to bring it to a vote? For approval?
I move that we approve the minutes of the September 9 meeting as they are. Maybe with a slight change in introductions to change the spelling on interdictions.
I second that motion.
Great, all in favor of approving the minutes with the change of the spelling of the word introductions? Say aye. Aye. Evan agrees also, so we have 5. So that passes. The meeting minutes will approved as is with that one minor change. Now move on to the hazardous substance risk rating system.
Okay.
That was discussed to be added to the agenda this time.
Right, so I think our discussion was, last meeting, if I recall, it should be on the meeting minutes, we talked about which rating system to suggest, which risk rating system to suggest. Does everyone remember that? What to adopt or suggest or?
I wasn't here for the last meeting. I remember the meeting before that was when it was first brought up. So
We were talking about sort of what we wanted in the annual report, right? And then we opted to not be very specific because that gave us more maneuver room for meetings like this.
So
Was this the point when we were talking about prioritization versus rating?
Yeah.
When we were talking about prioritizing certain chemicals and then y'all mentioned something about just sticking to like a rating system, like
Right.
using numbers?
Right, my recollection is we wanted to bring this back up because you guys wanted to discuss or have some more time to think about like what rating systems, what.
The one that you had brought up, the
Mhm.
EPA one, I was fine with.
Okay. And then I know Mark had some suggestions for system that you use at your company.
Right, the HMIS
Mhm.
system, and it boils, it's the balancing act, right, between speed of understanding and amount of information, and this one
Mhm.
boils things down to effectively 3 numbers,
Right.
flammability, toxicity, and reactivity.
Mhm.
So, for example, acetone or IPA
Right.
would show up high on the flammability
Mhm.
rating, right? Catenite clay would show up extremely low.
Mhm.
And then there's a toxicity one where you have the same thing, right? 4
Right.
is really toxic, 1 low, and there's a reactivity one as well. So something that doesn't react well to contact or has a tendency to do nasty things when exposed to water would rank high there. And so it gives you a very, very, I mean, you can glance at it and get an idea of what's involved.
It's been around forever.
Yeah.
It's
is it what you
kinda,
see on the back?
it's kinda,
That's
well, as far as OSHA goes, they've gone away with that and they're going to GSA system. However, NFPA still does use that system. And
there are three different things in play. So it's HMIS, then there's NFPA, which is the fire marshal's thing, which is what you were talking about.
Right.
And it does a very similar thing where it talks about flammability, reactivity, and health, and then there's
Personal,
yeah.
PPE type thing,
Right.
or generic.
HMIS does PPE, NFPA does does this warnings for, this is an oxidizer, this is a water reactive, that's what the fourth slot's taken up with. Mainly because there the objective is, when the firefighter shows up on scene, yeah, oh, let's not use water on this, because that'd be bad, right? Or, you know, to give them the same general idea, right?
Yeah.
Really quick understanding of what's going on. With maybe not as much depth, but I think we have the depth with the drill down into the other things.
Sure. So, that being said, should we agree to discuss, maybe at another meeting, like the feasibility of implementing that kind of a system, the HMIS system? I know that we talked about you assessing whether or not, or rather how challenging it would be to actually take your existing Excel spreadsheets and actually apply something like that.
A big part is I need to know what is wanted before I can go too far down that road.
Okay.
'Cause that's where what it was discussed last time.
Right.
What do we, you guys want to be able to chat and say, what do we want? And then I can start doing some
Right.
research with ISD of what can, this is the concept.
Right.
How do we get there?
So the way I see it is the concept is making things, like you're saying, more accessible, more approachable to both industry and the community. So basically, a rating system that, for example, you were saying that a lot of your companies have a hard time actually understanding the toxicity or the flammability or what risks are involved in the chemicals that even they store. So I see it as a dual purpose thing, something where we could, one, help industry to understand, the risks, two, help the community to actually make use of our website. So if we have a ranked system, then we can tell people where the highest risks are, right? And then on top of that, actually, maybe long-term, look towards incentivizing the use of less toxic, less flammable, less dangerous chemicals. Anyone?
Well said.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, but at the same time, there's the practical aspect of literally what you're looking at wanting. So if it's saying we want a number ranking system along these types of categories, that helps me be able to say this is the scope of what we're looking at. Because right now it's still relatively nebulous
Right.
on a nuts and bolts side, which I have to be able to take.
So if we were to implement something like the NFPA or the HMIS system for category,
Yeah, so
Right.
here's the HMIS, sort of
Right.
like a basic.
so what would happen is we take our list of reportables, right? I would probably ask for some assistance, but we could very quickly map that, the chemical names to the codes, right, or the numbers. And then we would give that to you. ISD would then have to update the website so that, there would just basically be an added set of columns, a health column, a flammability column, reactivity column. I think we would keep those three, and the PPE/other thing we'd probably drop, would be my guess.
It's ranked 0 to 4.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
And maybe a little quick link to something to explain what and actually we could probably take the numbers and make them go away and replace it with
High, low, kind of.
very high,
Yeah.
high, medium, low.
Sure,
And then there's
yeah.
and then maybe negligible or something.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well,
It
the
makes
only-
it a little more accessible.
I understand that, I agree with that as well, but I just have a concern that there's gonna be a mismatch in translation between what's on the SDS as far as the NFPA codes go and what's defined. And if the NFPA
Right.
says it's a 4
Mhm.
and we use a different word, that doesn't represent 4, see what I'm saying? There's
HMIS
gonna-
has words associated with them.
Yeah, they do.
Severe hazard, minimal hazard.
We could
But
just
NFPA
adopt that
does
system.
not.
Yeah.
No, they do.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah, it's mainly for transportation.
Right.
I mean, we could just use this system and say for severe hazard, just extend it.
But on the table, I would use the words as opposed to the numbers, just because it.
I'm saying we could use both
Oh,
and then
okay.
solve that problem for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, just as long as it's consistent.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And give you enough.
So is it, how many, this is which system are we talking about?
Hazardous materials identification system.
The HMIS
And-
system?
Yeah, and it sounds like there is some, the NFPA is sort of similar, but this,
It's a
I
little
suspect,
different.
yeah, I suspect this is already, this is under the jurisdiction of the fire marshal, right? No?
NFPA.
Yeah, so you guys are already being held to this standard, so why make it redundant? Just go HMIS.
We,
See what I'm
HMIS, if you remember, serves originated in the coatings industry,
Mm.
which is fine, because we have lots of stuff on. We want to be able to, on our site, we want to be able to figure out what's really bad really quickly,
Mhm.
or what's less, far more innocuous
Right.
very quickly. And that's why that very simple rapid system came up. And that's why I thought it might be a good one for this.
Yeah, I think it seems like logical.
I just happened upon a good comparison of the two. It says that the target audience for HMIS is to be used by employees and workers, whereas NFPA is used for emergency response personnel. The label shape is different, as we know, one's a diamond, one's bar. And then the health hazard communication, HMIS covers both acute and chronic health hazards, whereas NFPA only covers acute health hazards. So that would be one of the biggest ones, I think, especially the chronic, including that. And then the white section, I don't know if that's really that applicable to us, but for HMIS, it's for PPE, which is personal protective equipment, and NFPA is for displaying any other special hazards. So, right.
Like if it was an acid or something like that.
Yeah. So for me, the biggest one would be that being able to include this chronic health hazard would be important.
And so I have to caveat this, HMIS is designed around employees, so,
Yeah.
and the exposure scenario and everything is set
Yes.
around employees. And I think it's still worthwhile, but that distinction has to be at least
Yeah.
brought up.
You're right.
Mhm.
Yes.
But it's better than nothing.
And probably a link or two to something like this that I'm reading that kind of compares the systems and talks about what they offer. I mean, we'd somehow have to be able to explain what we're trying to get across to the community. So, okay.
Okay. That makes sense. So we're looking about basically a 0 to 4 ranking with down about 3 columns, was it, or was it 4?
3 categories.
3 categories.
Unless anyone else thinks we need to include
No, just
the
3.
white, okay.
I think we also said the 0 to 4 rating and including the language, so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so 0 minimum hazard,
Both
1
the
slight hazard,
description,
2 moderate
description,
hazard,
yeah.
yeah, that was.
Yeah, there's pretty generic descriptions of those that have been around forever.
Yeah,
So,
that's fine, but I think it is valid because, 0 to 4, who knows if a 4 is low or high? Like, it does at least interpret it for you, so. The point is to make it.
That's the, you're talking about GHS. GHS categorizes things as well.
Yeah.
And they use the reverse. One is the worst.
Yeah, right, so it's good, it might as well just make it super.
Pictograms and
Yeah.
everything else, and,
Mhm.
I mean, there's still a lot of businesses out there that are not up to snuff with GHS, and it's been around for years.
So now I'm seeing that there's language associated with each of the colors. So 4 under health hazard is deadly, whereas under fire hazard, it's below 73 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm.
On the
So
category.
it's unique per
Per each-
per
Per category,
category.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah, yep, you're correct.
And in what you're looking at, does it have anything as far as combining for kind of like a risk heat map or anything like that?
I can send you the Wikipedia page if you want.
Because I'm just thinking down the road of something that you guys have asked for, you know, as we've talked about the idea of mapping or things like that, being able to distill information to as concise methods as possible to give it as accessible to people. That might be something, by using a method like this, basically developing a heat mapping structure can be done to be able to look at what's through the three categories. What is the overall risk being all combined? So that's a potential.
I can write you a
A
little
combined
program.
one?
I can.
What was that?
A combined one, you said?
So basically, it's kind of combined. So it's basically it's what you use in more of the risk management side of things, of looking at what is the completely combined risk of something. So it's not just the flammability of a chemical, but what if it's
Right.
flammable and this, and
Right.
then it's an overall. It's a different way of looking at
I mean, is there a system that does that?
it's
Otherwise, it's gonna be subjective.
well it's normally you do it by an equation, by
Right.
doing a table.
You could probably just add it up, like if there's a
Mhm.
high, 3 on the health,
Sure.
a 3 on the flammability, and a 3 on the physical hazard, and a 0 on the personal protection would add up to like 12 or whatever. So like, we can do that. That's just another column.
Exactly. It's basically just adding things up. So
Mhm.
if everything's a 4, which would be
Right.
weird, but if everything was a 4, it's like, yeah, stay away from that.
Sure, but
Just-
you
just
brought
stay
up-
away.
You brought up ethanol and isopropyl alcohol, like they're not really much of a health risk or a physical hazard, but they're super flammable.
Mm-hmm.
So it would maybe, like if it's high on the flammable, so it gets like a 4 or something, it would only get pretty much a 4. So yeah,
on your heat map idea,
Mhm.
right, you would maybe have some way of combining the two.
yeah,
Or you could do an individual, like a fire hazard heat map.
Yeah.
And then you would take your IPA, and if you're one of the processing facilities and you only keep 50 gallons on site, it would be a small little red dot, right? It'd be bright red, but it'd be a small dot. If you're us and you have, a 12,000 gallon tank of it, the dot would be a little bit larger, but it would still be red, right?
Mhm.
And then if you have something like mineral spirits, which are relatively lower in the flammability, you'd have a pink dot, right, or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that what you?
you could probably get that by just adding another Excel column that just literally adds up all the 4 numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So the value in adding them up is that, you're looking at something that poses just a high health hazard, fire hazard, and is unstable.
Mhm.
But, does that have value? Like, is that really where I'm really wondering because
I think
if
so.
you just
Yeah,
have,
it seems like you would want all of those things, right?
Right.
You would want it broken down so that people understand what the risk is exactly.
Mhm.
And then you would want maybe an overall number for how to store that, how careful to be with that thing, essentially.
I think being able to slice it would be,
Mhm.
because, I would approach, personally, I would think of it in 2 different ways, right? Reactivity and fire, right? More likely the place burns down, you've got smoke, all that sort of stuff being released into the environment from the place burning down,
Mhm.
right? Or, whatever's happening with reactivity. The health effect, right? So you spill, you have a tanker car just let go and it ends up it's volatilizing into the air and all that sort of stuff. And then it's going to be, does this make sense? It's going to be a little bit different, right? You're going to have a different hazard than if you had a fire. Fire is very much more immediate, and then you have the smoke and the other stuff from the fire. But that's treated differently than, let's say, mercury. Does that make sense?
I think I follow you. Yeah.
And the reason I asked was in the discussion around the concept of like mapping, trying to as I'm trying to also figure out what to present for you guys of what are some options. It's, you know, we can get down to the very aggregated data, which makes it more difficult when it comes down to mapping, whereas the more summary-esque you get, it becomes, there's different levels to be able to look at that. So yes, we can make a map saying, okay, what are the flammable risks? What are the corrosive? And, you know, those, but then the question is like, but those you're looking at each one separately, what are, you know, using something like a risk heat map, you're able to say, what is it just overall
Right.
around me? So and it's mainly partially for me to conceptualize where you guys want to go and what you're thinking through this and what I can show you what can potentially be done.
Can I clarify, we're talking about an actual map?
That's my hope, is by
Mhm.
adding this as greater value to
Right.
people to be able to look at. It also gives me the data source for something that I know you've been wanting for a long time. That more than just, here's a list of locations, but
Mhm.
I mean, I really would like to see that of each of these three categories. I'm still not totally convinced about the combination of the,
no problem.
but, I don't know,
The combination of what three?
3 numbers.
Okay.
But once the data is available, it's literally an Excel line and then an extra,
Yeah.
and
It's-
then we can look at
it's-
it.
I agree, I
easy,
agree.
so-
I'm just in my mind trying to figure out
What
what
the value.
that looks like and
Yeah.
exactly if it means the same thing for everybody.
Mhm.
But are you saying that happens for fire? Do they do this mapping? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Not like what we're necessarily talking about. We do have, we're even going through a very large process of identifying every business in the area, because the records have not always been the best. So
We've been attempting this for many years here.
I know the team that's been out there has made almost 17,000 contacts
Okay.
over the last couple months throughout the area. So we have mapping, but not like what we're talking about specifically for in the small scale. So it's, you know, I'm trying to find resources to say, okay, how can we use this? That also is adaptable, because there was the paper map that was made, but that was outdated as of almost like the day it was printed.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we maybe do something that's electronic that as I add businesses in, it's there.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Great.
so this is all very helpful, and I'll be able to start working on that with ISD and saying what will this entail.
I assume you would like like an Excel file with the chemicals that are on the toxic reporting, and then the HMIS values.
We'll need that. However, that will be to acquire that. I haven't looked into it.
I assume that would be homework for us, right?
What was that?
I assume that's homework that we can do.
Unless there is a resource that's actually out there, and that I don't know yet.
Not really.
Not really.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
what
missed
are we
what you
talking
said.
So, sort of the ISD portion of it and the heat mapping portion, very obviously, is on his end. But the first step is collecting and collating the data, right? And that's something I think we can do, because we have the list of chemicals, and between Wikipedia, looking at SDSs,
Oh, I
we
see
can
what
go
you're
and
saying.
get the HMIS information, create the
Actually
spreadsheet.
inputting it,
Yeah, and then we just pass it on.
the
and
data
then,
processing.
right, does that make sense?
Yes, but I'm thinking his step comes first. He has to figure out if we can do it, if it's
Mhm.
plausible,
Yeah.
and then,
Feasible, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have enough information, James?
I think this is enough
Move
information
forward?
for me to sit down with ISD and move forward.
Okay.
Because the two questions, you know, this gives me the structure to be able to hand to them, and you know, one of the other big questions would be is how much are they going to say this is in man hours this is going to cost.
Right.
I don't perceive it will be much,
Okay.
because we're talking about a couple lines of, you know, just a few lines of data. So I'll chat with them in the coming days.
And then the mapping part would be
is,
you.
and that I'm still researching
You
of.
would, and you could come back to us and say that you think that this is plausible. So it's kind of a two.
Yeah, and I have to talk to another person with the city as far as the website, because we use a unique platform that's for municipalities that I have to find out what plugins are out there to be able to use to do that, with hopefully not having to have somebody program something, which that gets expensive quickly. I'm sure there's something out there. I just have to find out what.
Hey, if it's a little heat map program, I can write it for you.
The challenge is with our platform though, making
Yeah.
it talk. That's
Yeah, I can't help you.
and
Yeah.
and because the city is very cautious
Mhm.
nowadays as far as customization of
Mhm.
things, because that means they have to be upkept and
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's what I worry about, is keeping things up to date.
exactly. So I have my contact within Central Services, that she's kind of our overall web administrator. So she and I are already planning on sitting down and chatting.
Yeah, it seems like if you're trying to institute a system that's just like a ranking of 0 to 16, right?
With addresses.
Yeah, you could probably just post that number and it would be, it would be interpretable.
No, and that part is not wrong with the idea of the mapping part, is where
Right.
making that fit into and display correctly. So I just have to get that technological information.
But the keeping it up to date,
That would not be a problem.
and why is that?
Because it depends on how nuanced we get with some different elements, but when we're talking about locations, that is, I'm already getting notified, I'm the one inputting in. So it's finding out what a module like this would entail. From what I've seen on other platforms, it's literally updating a spreadsheet. And using what I'm now using for myself, that's just making a quick customized spreadsheet report that would just get re-uploaded when it was time to update the
But this,
information.
we get the data once a year,
Mhm.
so it would have to be very clear on this, that this could be year-old data that we're putting up to a year old at least,
Mhm.
right?
I think it's reasonable to put it into the process of when a new business becomes onboarded, uploading that data again.
But things also change, right? No?
Not mid-year really.
Right, but I'm just saying that just for, if we were to post this for the public, that it would have to be very clear that this data might not be up to date
I
as
would.
of that date.
I think a reasonable statement would be able to have something in there. This is accurate as of
Right,
Number
this
of
date, and every time the upload happens, it's as of that date.
right.
Or information based on year reporting, except for new businesses.
Right. Okay.
I assume this is, this is a GIS problem, right? There's a GIS software involved. And
Well, I don't know yet. That's part of what I don't know so far. Is I would hope that we don't have to go full GIS, because that starts getting a lot more. Whereas if you can use certain plugins that often you'll see more that they leverage things, even like Google Maps, it becomes just a lot less intensive in some of, because GIS is written for GIS experts. So it's just a lot more technical. Whereas there's newer things coming out as far as just written for web pages and the internet that is a lot more approachable.
Does anyone else have anything they want to add to this discussion? Evan, do you have anything
Oh
to
no,
add?
I'm just supportive of the the discussion around how to provide public input or public transparency on both the mapping issue and also like a standardized risk, which I don't have anything specific to add, but I think that however we move forward, it should just be done in a standardized format where that we're not creating any new metrics, but we just stay within the bounds of different models that have already been done. So anyway, I think I'm rambling, but I support both of these efforts to sort of move the program forward.
So as it stands, then James will be able to ask about how much, if this is really feasible both for IS and for you. Okay, great.
Perfect.
And then if it is, then we will have a discussion about how it is that we will get all the information. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so if no one else has anything to add, then we'll move on to the section 3, collaboration partners.
Was that when we were discussing working with organizations?
Yep.
Could you
It
refresh?
was, yeah, it was very vague. So this, to my recollection, this is where we were discussing both working with organizations like your organization, nonprofits, and also working with industry to develop a sort of a pre-screening. This was Mark's idea, so I want to, okay, a pre-contact or like a
Consultation?
consultation, yeah.
I think
I don't want to put words in your mouth, so.
don't worry, it's pretty empty. Actually, I think the consultation idea was more directed towards you, in that it would be a case of, am I doing this right?
Okay.
And
So less of a collaboration
Right.
with individual or specific businesses, but more of a collaboration across the program?
All that was discussed last time was when I asked, are there any future agenda items that you'd like to put on there? And literally what was said was, well, let's talk about the conflict of collaboration partners and the rating system. So the collaboration partners, as previously discussed, was kind of anything and everything, from
Okay.
how do we collaborate with government entities,
Right.
to
Okay.
environmental groups, to community members, to businesses,
Right.
how that outreach might look.
Right.
It was very vague.
So it was very open-ended and broad?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I recall.
But the idea is that we want to collaborate with more organizations and agencies and businesses as a board. Is that, am I correct in
Yeah,
assuming
so
that?
my recollection was that we were discussing how not only would it make James's job a little bit easier in terms of like being able to hook into other government organizations that have access to certain data, but also that it could potentially be a way for us to give the data that we have to organizations that might be able to parse it for the public in other ways.
Okay.
But I don't have specific ideas personally. I don't know if you guys do.
I guess my first question is what our larger goal is here for developing a collaboration. Like what's the ideal outcome from a larger collaboration like this?
Right.
And perhaps we could agree on that and then fine tune it.
That sounds reasonable, yeah.
So I think part of what was moving this discussion was that the difficulty in filling the board spots. And also the lawsuit and some of the, the information and also some lack of information that seems to be available to the public. So I think that those are sort of 3 goals, maybe.
Yeah.
So, but stated a different way would be, to improve the relationship with the business community. And most of this is just, for me, it would be information, right, sharing. So, and then this idea of working with different environmental groups. So, that's my job. I'm supposed to be in the neutral position, right? So I see this, especially for me, I really have had this thing about the businesses. I would really like the businesses to learn more about what we're doing and have more input and have more of a pool to work with. And I think that would also help James. But I really also love this idea of figuring out how to make this, the information that we have,
more accessible to people. And to, you know, there are groups that can take this information and they, I mean, that's what they do, right? And so I think that would be great also to maybe have that more of a relationship. So to find out what we can do better, like maybe this map is, I mean, this map sounds like a great idea, but maybe there's some other piece of information that would be good to put on it. And yeah, so I guess those would be my two goals.
So Crystal, you are, as far as I know, still working with Beyond Toxics, right?
Oh, yeah, very
So,
much.
do you, I defer to you as far as like, do you have any ideas about like what organizations would be interested or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would start by reaching out to our West Eugene allies, folks that organize and do their work out in the West Eugene area and in near these manufacturing facilities.
We also
And
have.
I would check in with them about these goals first and see what input they would have for this and what information they would find useful from the Eugene Toxics Board and from these manufacturers.
Right.
Are we creating this information for you guys or
What's you guys?
you environmental types?
Environmental types, okay.
Or general public?
So I consider myself part of the general
I
public.
understand, I'm
And,
not pointing fingers.
more than an environmental type, and I think a lot of Beyond Toxics people and environmental groups are they want to advocate for policies that protect the people from environmental threats versus just focusing on the environment.
And Dawn,
in
you're
general.
also a person.
Yeah,
As far as I can tell.
So
We want to protect you
I
as
look
well.
at this more from a people perspective, communicating with other people that are concerned about some of the emissions in the area and just want to know more in general, because Beyond Toxics doesn't have all that information other than what we pull from the Toxics Board website, and we can encourage them to go to it, and they're like, oh,
But
well.
you've got other sources that you look at as well, that as a manufacturer, I'm not aware of.
Oh, like
I'm not sure.
other sources.
You know, I use so many thousands of gallons of sulfuric acid, and I emit so much of that into the air each year, and I
Sure.
track it, and I'm still way down on the bottom. I don't really emit that much. But I don't even know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I mean, we look at
Uh,
DEQ website for information
Well, sure.
pertaining to water and air.
I mean, you look at the DEQ versus City of Eugene versus the fire marshal, it's all different. I would like to see it all get standardized.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because
So-
I do 3 reports a year, and this is the most complicated one I have to do for the City of Eugene. And I know you know it, how difficult it is. But like the fire marshal report, no biggie. And then the EPA report we do, one thing, no biggie. But
It's kind of concerning.
does the information match? Yeah, EPA goes by how many tons,
Okay,
where
still.
fire marshal is 500 gallons, 500 cubic feet, 500 pounds. Anything above that. And then City of Eugene is 2.2, you know, for the
Typically.
highly toxic stuff.
Typically, when I'm doing my reporting, I actually, the first the spreadsheet that gets done is the City of Eugene toxics right, no spreadsheet, and the data from there gets exported into my other
Exactly.
things.
Yeah, perfect.
And then,
Right.
yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
to get to it. to your
But
point.
I don't, how accurate is everybody?
Well, and then you also have the problem that they're not all looking at the same thing. I think I've gone over this before, that, you know, here I break down all the raw materials into their cast level components, and then find all the toluenes and everything and add them up, and there's one toluene number. When I talk to State
Right.
Fire Marshal's report, there's toluene, and then there's resins
Yeah.
containing toluene.
Yes.
And so the actual toluene gets
Right.
split, and so the numbers look different.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So,
Which report takes
State Fire, 312.
So, I mean, that is something we could do. I mean, right? Because it doesn't have to be, we could, I'm just brainstorming.
Mhm.
So if you're saying that they're asking for things more split up,
Mhm.
why couldn't we ask for that also?
Should make reporting easier.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a charter thing.
It's a nightmare.
I don't think that is a charter thing.
Standardizing the
I'm sure
reporting.
James will look it up for me, but
I will look it up. I don't have my charter with me.
Would that be something that would help?
I'm just brainstorming here when you're,
So standardizing our reporting, making it easier for businesses and for people
Right.
to understand, are those three parts of the same, of
I
the
feel
goal
like
that we're
those
working
are,
towards?
yeah, those are things that have been brought up over and over again, that would be great.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't compromise the integrity or usefulness of the data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ideas, brainstorming ideas. So on a outreach to the industry folks, we can easily hold a meeting where we say, hey, Forrest is going to step up, and we're actually going to step through one of my reports, and you can see how I assemble my report so that other companies, or if you want to take the plunge, or different size companies maybe get some volunteers, so you can see how they assemble the data.
What really needs to be done to break everything out.
Right, and this way, as a method of outreach to industry, right? Say, see, this is how somebody else is doing it, and they'll go home and like, hey, oops. or they might say, hey, did you think of? And I'll go, oh, sorry. But as a way of establishing communication, because right now I think it's a very closed box system, right, or black box system, where I've got my way of creating the report. Don has his, somebody has theirs, right? And some of it's really stupid simple, right? We use IPA. How much IPA came in? How much came out? Okay, the rest of it must. Okay, boom, done. As opposed to me, who has this massive spreadsheet, right? But giving people the various ideas. So that's one form of outreach, or collaboration. Another one might be so that's sort of at the business level. At the organizational level, going and bringing, at least get the ball rolling, like bringing somebody from Eugene wastewater in, let them do a short spiel about what they do in terms of permitting, and then we actually do a short presentation of our own, and so we trade presentations so that they can see, because the information is going to be different and the goals are different, but there should be, so that how do you get that initial talk going, right? And maybe that's a way to do it. As to the community advocacy side, I leave that to you.
Yeah.
I'm going yet.
Yeah.
Well, and this whole long-term thing, since I've been doing the annual reporting for City of Eugene, I've gotten better at it. It's like, oh, I found these little things I didn't think about before. And they may still be under 50 pounds, so I don't have to record it. I list it, but I don't record it. But how many other people are not doing it to that detail where they should be? I mean, I take every SDS every year, go through the City of Eugene's toxic inventory, enter the CAS number, and I see if it's on the list. My SDS has changed, and I'm sure you've seen it from your suppliers. They've been changing a lot the last few years. They're doing chemical changes. Oh, I don't want that skull and crossbone on my SDS. So they change things. And so my levels, I mean, when I started, I reported 12 chemicals, then I went up to 35, I'm down to 27 now. And I'm just wondering how accurate all the other businesses are. And that's, to me, that's a concern.
Don, would a annual tool that came out, something that somebody could easily
We do have
plug
a tool.
Well, something that somebody could utilize each year, kind of like what you guys are talking about, like you have to enter in all your your information, but like that could let somebody know if their CAS number is in the system rather than going through the website but then be able to pull them into a list, so then they have their list of this is the stuff I need to record type of idea of, if I put this gas number in, it tells me, yes, it's on the list, and
Or no.
and then just, or no, but then if it says yes, it gives me the area to be able to plug in. I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm just trying to think
I mean,
of,
there's so many unusual things. I never thought of steel as a chemical. Okay, I mean, there's cadmium, chromium, phosphorus, all kinds of nasty things in there that one year she told me, oh, you need to report steel. I'm like, what? Steel in and out of my business. I mean, how many tons of that do I deal with a year? And break out that information and start reporting on it, where I never did before. And do businesses know that? You know, you don't look as a chemical as something liquid or a powder. You know, it could be a solid object. Well, you had barium source somewhere. So there's the guide that's given that is available for people to use is really good, but there's still so many things that, I mean, to me, that's the best tool out there right now, and other than talking to you. So, like I said, my whole thing is the accuracy. Everybody as accurate as possible.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused as what the concern is exactly. Like, is the concern that there aren't enough audits, or is the concern that other people might be lying?
Other
or
people aren't quite as accurate as others are.
They may be uninformed, it may be intentional, and they're lazy. It
Right.
could be anything.
That they just didn't know that.
Or they
steel,
just didn't
Sure.
know.
Or that they weren't, you know.
Does that
Okay.
circle back to our pre-consultation idea that we
Yeah,
were talking
I like
about?
Well,
that, yeah.
now, see, that's what's done, but when this was started, and we started, whenever it was, 2004 or whatever, the company hired somebody to counsel them how to do it, but looking back at those records, I keep them all, but looking back at those records compared to the way I keep records now, it's like night and day, because certain things weren't looked at as a chemical. And
What's your suggestion?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
I don't know,
suggestions.
I think maybe the guide can be updated more. I mean, I don't know how many businesses, what these businesses do that would require recording. I really don't know. You know, stuff that's put down wastewater, stuff that's emitted to the air. I don't know. And, I mean, if you took a brewery, okay, I can kind of guess what they do. But what kind of cleaning agents do they use?
Mostly hydrogen
That's a
peroxide.
lot of those things that you don't think about,
Yeah.
the behind the scenes things that are not just, you know, you have maintenance chemicals, which you don't have to report on a maintenance type thing, but a cleaning, which is part of the process, you have to report. That's kind of vague in that book. And I know you're doing that as part of your consultation now, but all these other businesses, the 30 some odd businesses that were on the list forever, do they know?
Good question.
Is the Chamber of Commerce a place where you would go to talk to businesses, or were you thinking you would have some sort of open house?
I mean,
or-
you do your audits, your 3 years, but you're checking paperwork, you're bouncing numbers, you know, make sure they're right. And I don't know what your work schedule's like, but do you ever go out to businesses that have been on the list and have been reporting for years and make sure they're doing it right?
Outside of the audits,
Yeah,
not yet.
I don't know
I
if that
mean,
was something that was planned or not, because to be honest with you, I bet you just the businesses just don't know.
Well, and that's actually something that I ran into even just today, was the aspect of how unknown all this is. And unknown people's, the substances they use, how unknown it all is
So terrible.
to the businesses.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
because, you know, they use it in the way that it's meant to be used. You know, and it says, okay, use gloves with it. Okay, I use my gloves with it and throw it away. Okay, done. That's
What did
about-
I do? I cleaned.
Yeah,
Okay, but was that part of the manufacturing process? That's what they gotta determine, and a lot of them don't think of it that way.
mhm.
They think of it as a maintenance tool.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, there's an overall, I think, just lack of understanding of the program.
Mhm.
There's a lack of understanding, I think, within their own compounds, and especially in how it relates to the program.
Okay, I see where you're going with this now. So you're
Sorry it
suggesting.
took so long.
No, I just was trying to understand. So you're suggesting that, like similarly to what Mark was saying, that there be some kind of program or some kind of outreach to actually communicate with people to make sure that they're reporting correctly. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
something
sense. Right.
out there to help businesses report correctly.
So that's, I think that would tie in with the idea I presented of having
Yeah.
an open house or a presentation. Maybe we could just video the presentation.
Mhm.
Here's how we do it, and
Right.
and this part here is where we account for our powder wash water, which has zinc in it, and I look at the monthly.
Don reports steel, do you?
Yeah, and then, you know,
Right.
again, hypothetically, Don does this print, and he talks about stealing. This might
Sure.
trigger somebody else to go, oh, James, can I consult with you?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Well, something that we were talking about back when I was over in Risk was in how that we could serve our clientele, which was city employees. With what you're saying with the presentation, I love that. I love the idea, like the idea of also Chamber of Commerce, because that's people that I don't talk to most of the time. But we were looking at, rather than, because we just didn't have the bandwidth to be able to go and meet all throughout the city all the time, the idea of using a digital format of small Q&A questions, or have somebody sit down and be able to say, this is what I do to make sure I get my numbers right, and you do a little 3-minute video.
Yeah. We could even turn it into like a webinar too.
And it's
building
things that
off
we
of
can
that.
share.
YouTube.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what.
We have a YouTube channel.
That's something that organizations can support. Like that's
Mhm.
something tangible that Beyond Toxics and some of our allied groups could support you on and say, like, come up with a presentation that is
Mhm.
helpful for other businesses. Come to our office, we can record you, we can make it live, we can take comments, we
Great.
can answer
Mhm.
like on the spot things, and then send it to you in a format that we can circulate around.
Cool.
That is something we have the time and capacity to help with if we want to move in that direction.
Wasn't,
Yeah.
on the little pamphlet to help businesses do the reporting, isn't there like a question and answer type thing in there at the end? If there is, it's pretty short.
I think there might be a little FAQ in there.
Yeah.
But my fear when I look at things
Yeah,
like
it's a lot.
this, I mean, this is, I wonder how many people have actually even read any of it,
Yeah, I
let
know.
alone most of
Right.
it. I mean,
I read it
because it's,
every year.
okay, this
Right.
tells me, okay, figure out this is basically what I do. I'll just
And I
get it
like
done and
that,
get it out the door.
I like that your suggestion is a collaboration between, industry and environmental advocacy. Bringing these kinds of people together with those kinds of people,
And you-
whatever that means. But,
It's okay.
no, I'm kidding.
No, I get you,
Yeah.
but I support
But yeah.
that. I think
I don't know,
that there is
we're all
a
the same kind
division.
of people. I think we're all, personally, I think we're all the same kind of people.
Yeah, and this could be a way to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think it's a really cool idea.
Make you feel guilty.
So Dawn, you're gonna be our presenter, right? All
yeah.
right,
Okay.
I don't know about videotape, I can get in front of people, that doesn't bother me.
video.
Oh, boy.
Or a podcast. I mean, we could just, if you want to
We
do
can
your
figure
voice.
something out.
Yeah, we definitely can figure
I can
out
go like
something.
this while Dawn narrates.
Yeah.
Or PowerPoint it, and then what you get is the video that
Perfect.
slides
There
and
you
your
go.
voice.
Voiceover.
Perfect.
Yeah, voiceover,
That's-
and that
yeah.
actually works out pretty well.
There you go.
But something, I mean, that's a tool for others to use.
Mhm.
And I think
All
it
the
would make
reporters.
sense too, because you're gonna be going through a spreadsheet, so.
And also, as these things come out, one of the nice elements is there's something that can be sent out from the program
Yep.
to the people in it,
Mhm.
and it has that feeling like I'm getting something.
Yeah,
out of this fee that I'm paying every year.
Yeah.
Something, I'm seeing something, because there's
Mhm.
all sorts of
Especially,
people
yeah.
that, all sorts of businesses, they pay because they have to be monitored,
Uh-huh.
but they don't file a report. So they're like, why am I paying, I mean, I got the question today, why am I having to pay a fee? Well,
Right.
this is why, you're not gonna like the answer, but this is why, this is what the charter says.
And if the reporting is standardized, then it can potentially like help you with your other reporting, or at least not hinder you from your other reporting. So that would be good.
So how do we put something like this into action?
Good question.
Dawn goes down to Beyond Toxics, wearing a suit.
Oh, I
Make a
won't,
video.
yeah, I'm done with suits.
What about a hazmat suit?
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Make it
Lab coat.
entertaining.
Yeah, you could wear
I can wear a lab coat
mask.
and a face mask.
Full PPE. I love it. Goggles for effect.
But to be honest with you, I'm for it as long as I'm not the only one doing it.
Yeah, me too. I want to be supportive, but I don't want to be the one doing it all on my own.
Yeah,
I will help.
Okay.
because there's so many nuances in reporting, you know,
I know nothing about any of this,
it's a pain.
but I'm happy to bring
If
tips.
you're trying to be accurate, it's a pain.
Mhm.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So what about, I mean, I'm envisioning that we have some topics that we're going to
Mhm.
discuss, or are we thinking of putting together like a presentation, like a PowerPoint presentation that would go to the Chamber of Commerce? What are we thinking? I'm just trying to think how, especially for our next meeting, we sort of move forward with this great idea.
I can help with either one of those things, the PowerPoint and or the video. It sounds like we want a PowerPoint presentation specifically designed for businesses to ensure that they're reporting accurately as well.
I think what we would have to do is look at, just as an example, look at what the businesses are reporting, find the common chemicals
Mhm.
initially, perhaps, and then go up to into the obscures that you have to report metals.
Mhm.
Well, or just say, this is what we do,
Yeah.
right? This is how we report. It does two things. One, it helps other companies
Mhm.
because they get to see how somebody else is doing it, right? Actually, here's for the community, they get to see how these things are generated, so it doesn't become, again, a black box.
Mhm.
Oh, they give those numbers are just garbage.
Yeah, where do they come from?
How do you know? Right. How do we know? Well, okay, maybe there's problems here and there, but you know, this is all the work that's going into it. Right?
Well, and something that we haven't discussed is like how feasible it is for other cities to adopt a program that's similar, and if there's more transparency and if there's more information available, it could potentially also act to, support the idea of other other cities taking on this kind of system. I don't know. I know Portland tried to
It's
do it.
however
but-
made it very difficult for that to
Oh.
happen.
Oh, I heard about that. I think you told me about this last time.
I think one of the steps would be identifying the volunteers. I suggest that whoever, we got different sized, preferably different sized organizations, right? And then I would suggest probably going over the report generation process in detail before we actually do the presentation, so that if we are making mistakes, that they get cleaned up beforehand. Don't really want too much egg on my face.
Yeah.
And then, right, so I guess the first step would be identifying potential candidates
Candidates for,
doing the presentations.
like, who to give the presentations to?
Who
or
would be giving them?
Oh.
Yeah, if we do a video, then nobody has to give them except for the one time.
Yeah, creating the video and recording it and then sharing it at the Chamber of Commerce and y'all selecting businesses that we need to distribute this to would
Probably
be
easiest.
We
key.
have that list.
Yeah, so I would look to y'all for ideas about the topics, the reporting topics that are not clear, that you think other businesses would benefit from learning, and then come up with a game plan to record it and lay it out, and I'll help with the recording and then asking the questions like, well, what about this kind of thing, so that y'all can,
That sounds like an
Hear
agenda
that.
item to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're quite into
Oh, no.
future agenda
We're
items
not
yet.
there yet. But as an example, we could go out to company X, how do you report IPA? Company Y, how do you report IPA? And then do that comparative analysis on them and see, there's a problem
Yeah.
here, or this is the right way to do it. But you got evaporation and all that other stuff.
And then stripping out identities and
Yeah.
smudging the numbers a little bit so it's not obvious
Yeah,
who's who.
exactly. So I take my total in, my total out, this is what I purchased, this is what I scrapped, this is what I have on hand, this is what went down the sewer, and this is what went out as product. So, that would help with consistency across the companies.
So as I've been listening, it sounds like, part is coming up with what's the list of topics or concepts that are wanted to be presented. Everything from how do you report correctly to here are abnormal chemicals or substances that you may not know land in the program, to how do you get to the right output type, to, so it sounds like it's developing those topics, finding out what are the topics we need. And then it's,
Oh,
out
yes.
of those topics, how do we, then develop a quick presentation or something, 3 to 5 minute, this is how we get our emitted to air with a
Yes.
compound. Talk it through, film it, and then here's now a resource video of how do you get your correct emitted to
Yeah,
air.
I mean,
Yep.
there's specifics out there, like the evaporation of sulfuric acid, how that's done. University of Texas designed it.
Exactly, so that would be something that could be described
Yes.
in that little presentation.
Yeah.
Here's an example for sulfuric acid. This is how you do it. There are resources available to do this, and this is how you use a resource like that.
Yeah.
And,
So,
AP 42, they've got very specific
Yeah.
guidelines for welding gases and welding wire, and so, oh, really, I gotta report welding wire?
I got a question for the industry types here. How tech savvy would you say a lot of our business reps and the people that would take this information and implement it are? Would they prefer like a Zoom call, a YouTube video, a webinar? Like, is there existing technologies that they're currently looking to for education that we could just kind of piggyback along with, or?
Like, I learned from the guy that used to do it, then I fixed his problems, then I found out other things by reading the book, and then I found out more stuff by talking to Joe.
Okay, so this was
And
a
I still may be missing
conversation.
something, I don't know.
Okay.
So I hope not after all these years, but
Mark, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I try not to think.
Okay,
That's fair.
that's okay.
I suspect something simple like YouTube. A lot of the webinars that I've listened on, you have to
Yeah.
log in.
it's
all the-
easy.
YouTube's easy.
YouTube is easy.
And we have
Okay.
access to it.
YouTube's easy. We can create channels and playlists pretty
Mhm.
easy, focused on topics.
Yeah, it seems like short videos would probably be the best too on specific
Like
topics.
3 minute
Yeah, nothing more than
attention
that.
span.
Right.
Okay.
Because I was just sort of envisioning, if we can get a couple videos together, then a presentation like to Chamber of Commerce or an open house or something, which I would gladly do, some basic, this is what we do here. And
Yeah,
if
nobody
you
knows
need
what to do.
more information, look, we have all these cool YouTube hits you can get to that, maybe something like that. I can really see that happening, right?
So do we record these here during meeting time in this lovely room?
Oh, you'd
Or
have to prep it, right?
do we go to a business? First we come up with the topics and the talking points and agree on all that, and then figure out
How to.
Whatever's easiest. Yeah.
So, I gave an idea for collaboration with industry, an idea for collaboration with other government organizations. YouTube video, how to interpret the data, right? What does this mean, right? Oh God, this is be contentious. But just like if we implement the HMIS thing, right? How to interpret what does HMIS mean, right? Or what does the ranking system mean? A little short YouTube video of that way somebody in the community can go, what do these numbers mean? Click.
Yeah.
Or
They're already out there.
what is an SDS, right? And safety data should be, or actually we're not,
That is something.
we're
that
linking
you-
to a different website, right?
that, you know,
Oh,
gosh,
listed.
Right, but
Other
going there and
topics.
explaining,
Mhm.
a short video saying, here, let's take isopropyl alcohol. We follow the link on the Toxie's Right Note page to the page explaining it, and we'll go through what the explanation means. And that way,
Sharing a
We're-
ton of links that way.
yeah, and that way we're helping the community understand what they're looking at, right? Which I assume is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay with
At the
that.
very least,
Oh,
I think.
yeah, 1000% important.
At the very least, I think it might make sense to discuss like scripting and like what we would want to say
Oh, yeah.
in these meetings.
Oh.
That seems like it makes sense.
Okay.
In terms of filming them, technically we do have a studio downstairs.
Yeah.
I don't know what the full
Right.
accessibility of that is as far as with, even with
Like a
our.
real lab coat.
Bring a
Costumes.
All right.
But we actually did some small HR videos for the city in that space. We have a very good videographer. I don't know if that's accessible to us or what that would cost, because it would be his time. But we might be able to use the space some,
Yeah.
to create some small things. I don't know, but that's, I would say filming in a space like this, it wouldn't
Yeah.
look that good, with all the ambient light and everything.
And the
But
sound and all that.
but getting us set up into a really tight little presentation.
Cool.
And if it's just going on YouTube and being circulated digitally, I mean, iPhones or a lot of modern mobile devices can shoot
Yeah.
in that quality.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true.
A lot of that, so that just showing the slideshow and the voiceover, a lot of that can pretty much goes away. All you need is a good quality mic,
Mm-hmm.
quiet, and
And somebody that can read.
And then editing, some minor
Yes.
editing on the videos afterwards.
Sounds good.
So the next meeting, we're gonna have this as a topic, so we're gonna come up with kind of a list of what it is we want to have our little mini videos of.
Yep.
And maybe discussion of what information we want to have included in that, in each of those. And then sort of the logistics of how we want to do that.
Right.
James, can you see about this room?
I'll chat with our video guy.
Yeah, so, but I think both for the industry folks and the advocacy folks, because I do like the idea of doing a few, just, to make it more accessible for people. Yeah, possible?
Yeah, it's
Great.
possible for me.
Great, excellent.
Cool. Great idea.
So the last thing on here are future agenda items, which we just added one. Is there anything else that we seem to be on a roll? Yes, Don?
Oh, no, I was looking under my hand.
I thought that was a hand raise. Okay, well then if there's.
Evan.
Evan.
Yes, I am.
are you
Yeah,
there?
yeah, I just support all the.
Do you have anything to add?
No, I think it's all great ideas, really productive and collaborative, and I support all the directions that you all are discussing. So yeah, I think it's great idea. Let me know if I can support.
Great, thanks, Evan. Okay, well then maybe we will call this meeting a little bit early. Okay, so yes.
No, I said I support that.
Okay. All right, at 5:47, we will.
4:47?
4:47.